see what Bernardo Silva came out and said as well? I'm going to put this up on the screen. Bernardo Silva came out and said the schedule is completely crazy. We've just received the news that we only have 1 day off for the English League Cup game. We'll probably play every 3 days for a month. It's absolutely absurd. In the Champions League, if you don't qualify for the round of 16, you have to play 2 more games in a playoff. It's true that the squads are bigger, but I'm not going to say it's easy. It hasn't been easy. I spend little time with my family and friends. The amount of games we're subjected to is absolutely absurd. And we saw a lot of people sort of attack lesser players at less successful clubs in the last few years, saying it's a loser's mentality. But it's another player now that's come out and complained about the amount of games that's going on. It isn't fair on the footballers. Do you agree? Do you understand where Bernardo Silva's coming from?
Yeah, look, I completely understand. You know, they do get paid a lot. That's obviously going to be brought up. But physically, the physical demands is another thing. And look, the big gripe is from that new Champions League format, because from what I can see, unless I'm mistaken, is even without whether you qualify or not, there's more games than there would be in a traditional group stage in the league format, right? If I'm not mistaken. So there's extra games been added there. I would be very interested to see if you gave footballers the option, though, right, of, listen, we will reduce the amount of games. We're going to, only have 1 leg in Europe. So there's no 2-leg thing going on. We're going to scrap the League Cup, all of that stuff, less games, but you have to take a wage cut. Like, I would be very interested to see if footballers would do that, because in most places of work, you do less work, you get paid less. Now, obviously, the games have been increased, but over years, the footballers' wage has been comparatively increased.
It's gone up. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. So I'd be interested if that. Obviously, that's never going to be an option. But yeah, it is a lot, and they're going to keep trying to squeeze it because it makes money. More football, more games, more money for these companies, for these clubs and stuff. So it's going to fall on deaf ears, and I think eventually it's just going to get silly in the level of injuries we get. And this is where clubs have to start using their squads. Why you don't play Bernardo Silva in the League Cup, like 3rd round?
Well, what I find interesting about it is I get where they're coming from, but you're absolutely spot on. There's more money coming into the game. There's more games, but the players are being paid obscene amounts of money for it, which is fair. They're earning that. They deserve it. What I don't like is why are they not calling out their clubs? They're always blaming the FA and the Premier League and UEFA, but it's their football clubs, their managers, the people that run their clubs that are signing up to these initiatives. It is their clubs that are taking them around. I don't get enough time with my family. It's your football club that takes you away for 3 weeks in pre-season to travel around the world. A lot of these clubs and players at these clubs moaning get taken away for 2 or 3 weeks at the end of the season for post-season like tours and games. So the only element of this I don't like is that they try and blame it on the league and they blame it on the FA, but they leave their own club alone. And then the fans moan about it, but actually it's your football club. Because your football, the Premier League clubs are the Premier League. Yes, there's some people that kind of run it day to day, but you guys, you make the rules, you vote on things, you can bring a new agendas up. And if players started turning around internally and saying, again, you're right, you probably, if they get rid suddenly of 10 to 15 games a season, that probably means footballers are going to have to take a pay cut to some degree. If they got rid of the games completely, there'd be a pay cut that comes in. Or even if they don't and they got to make the squads even bigger, they're going to take a pay cut because that money gets spread out amongst more people, which I think they'd have to cut. You can't get the same money for less work, right? That isn't going to happen. But at the same time, I think they've got to speak internally towards their own clubs. They always managers do it. They always try and make it sound like it isn't you lot. They'll sit there and go, I love my owner. I love my ball. They're great. And then sit there and moan at the Premier League for the amount of games that are going on. But it's your club, your owners that have signed up to that. Why are you not calling them out? And when it says here, clubs have nothing to do with international football. But Bernardo Silva just spoke about when the League Cup's on. But the rules and regulations that are put in, your club, your owners, the people running you day to day are signing up for this. Those clubs are also going on pre-season tours for multiple millions of pounds. You could do your pre-season in Manchester, arrange friendlies at your training ground, don't have fans involved, and you got the players to stay with their families for the whole summer. They go on summer holiday, come back, start training, but go home every night to their wife and kids. Man City, Liverpool, we've resolved it, but we don't. My only issue with the players moaning is you're right. They don't want to pay cut, and they won't look internally at the things their own clubs are doing and signing up for, which keeps them away from their family and makes them tired. Until they start doing that, it kind of falls a little bit on deaf ears for me. It kind of makes me think, how serious are you about this? Personally?
Yeah, it's a bit of a conflict because, like I said, Klopp done it. Lots of managers have done it, and players are doing it. Always moan about the schedule while they're, like you said, the clubs. I never hear about clubs sitting there going to the FIFA or the FA and trying to say, oh, there's too much games. Like, it's a conflict because the clubs want more games. They can sell more tickets to games, you know what I mean? More TV money when they're on TV. So the clubs want it. And again, like you said, the international thing, they're sending them all around the world. I don't hear players go, right, let's just not go there and, just pay me 10 grand less or 15 grand less this month and we'll have this off, like, so it seems to be really is all for show. Do you know what I mean? I don't see what they're doing to try and get any genuine actual change apart from just moaning publicly. That's all it comes down to me.
We're talking about the sorry, obviously I missed this part.
Yeah, but just talk about Bernardo Silva saying there's too many games, etc., and sort of complaining about it. And what do you make of it?
Nah, I agree with it. There's too many games, and it looks like it's getting even more because now you got the Club World Cup. Obviously a couple years ago they added the international tournament. What's the one called? The Nations League. They're expanding the World Cup. Is it the next one? It's going to be more teams than usual. It always looks like there's more and more and more football happening, and I'm not gonna lie, I hear him. I don't think anything is going to change. If anything, I think there'll always be more reasons to play more football games. Like even friendly games now, you go to games now, like even the ones they play in the US, they kind of try to make it in a way where it's like a friendly tournament. Like every time Arsenal, Liverpool, and United played in the summer, what did they call it? They called it Rivals in Red, something like that. Every game was promoted the same way, just to make it seem like it's like a little tournament between all three of them. And it just always looks as if there's big more games. And I do feel for him. It's becoming annoying for a lot of these players because they barely get any vacation time. Look at these players. They finished the Euros, and then they had like about a month of vacation before joining their teams on preseason. So I feel for him. It's these players are being ran to the ground. This is why we're seeing more injuries than ever. ACLs. Remember last season? I think Madrid started with like 3 different ACLs. It's not a coincidence that all these players are going down. But their clubs are not doing anything about it. The only way I look at it that it could be feasible to play that amount of games all year round is then when you I think they're gonna have to expand teams. Like this limit of, I don't know what the limit is. Is it 23 or 26 players? It's probably gonna have to be more. Like I feel I see a future where these football teams are gonna look like NFL teams. You know how the NFL teams, they have like, I don't know, a gazillion player on their team. You couldn't name all of them. There's no way you can memorize the whole roster.
Yeah.
This is where I see football going to.
Because they increased the number of substitutions, right? That was one way of fixing it, right? That you can make multiple subs in different stages. They done the sub thing. So that was one little way appeasement. So I don't think they're ever going to say less games because it's less money. They will probably either like say more subs, more players you can register and blah blah blah. But then it's a mad one. If the teams go like you said with the NFL though, then that's going to be more money. They have to pay players. It's a madness. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. As much as I love football, I don't want to watch too much football. Sometimes it just becomes too much. Like I like when I miss football. Like when football is gone for a month, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to watch football. But they're just actually making way too many games. And I understand it. And I see the chat talking shit as usual, saying a month vacation is more than enough. I'm not surprised because I could tell that the level of IQ is not that high. And a month vacation for me, for Lawless, for Terry would be amazing. Because guess what? We're not athletes. If Terry took a month vacation, he went to the Bahamas or something for a month, I promise you he'll come back very refreshed. First of all, he'll probably get a 10. So he's going to look much tanner than he is. His mind is going to be all of all the content and all the hate and all that stuff. And he's going to be ready to play. When I'm talking about players bodies break down if you ask them to play 11 months of football and they can only get one vacation rest. One month rest. It is not enough for these players. They need breaks in the middle. Like, you cannot expect a human body to operate for about 20 years and play high level football when they're playing this amount of games. It's not normal. We're not average athletes. We're average people. Lawless would love to take a month vacation. I would love to take a month vacation. But athletes need more than that. They need less games. It's an issue that also, by the way, happens in the NBA. Obviously, this is more about football, but the NBA, it's been a complaint about that for years, that they do a lot of games, because the NBA is 82 games, and the NBA is actually worse than football because sometimes they're playing back to back. So you get a lot of ACLs and knee injuries and whatever, and it's something been talked about for years. Is like, you're running these players to the ground. So I'm seeing football being the same way. You need to give these players a break.
Yeah. But then you have managers like Arteta who will play Saka constantly when he has the option to rotate him. And we sit there and obviously say, there's too many games. Why are you playing Saka every game? You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I'm saying. They need to expand squads, and managers need to be smarter the way they use squads.
There is certainly a balance in there. But again, players can just say, well, no, I'm not doing it. Pay me less. I mean, they can do these things. This again, they're not like normal people in this sense. Not the guys at the very top. It isn't like someone walking out on a sort of working wage and now not being able to pay their bills. This is pro footballers that sign their contracts. They know what's kind of coming. And I do think there's a sensible conversation they can have. And I do get people saying they can't call out their employers. I don't mean in a press conference. I mean internally, because the players still hold the power in football, because without them, there is no football. They're the most powerful people in the game still. So there is much they can do. I wanted to ask you guys about Arsenal. I'm not too sure of your individual predictions, but I was thinking about across the straight facts.